Welcome to an echo of the past. My name is Hatshepsut, the queen you may know as one of the greatest rulers of ancient Egypt. Though I was a woman, I sat upon the throne of the pharaohs and led my people to wealth and peace. Today, I will share my story, how I was born into the royal family, how I faced doubt and prejudice, and how I became a pharaoh whose reign left its mark upon the sands of time. I was born around 1507 BC into the royal family of Egypt's 18th dynasty. My father was Thutmose first, a powerful pharaoh, and my mother was Queen Amos. From birth, I was surrounded by the weight of tradition and the expectation of the god's bloodline. As a princess, I was not destined to live quietly. I was taught to read, to understand religion, rituals, and the administration of temples. I learned quickly, sometimes to the surprise of those who thought a girl should remain silent. Even then, I thought, I may be a woman, but that does not mean I cannot rule. My fate was tied to my half-brother Thutmose II. We were married, as was custom, to keep the royal bloodline pure. It was not a grand romance, more a matter of politics. Yet even in those days, I often smiled to myself, thinking I might be the more capable of the two. Of course, I rarely said that aloud, at least not too often. When Thutmose II died, his son by another wife, the young Thutmose III, was named Pharaoh. But he was only a child, far too young to rule, and so I was named regent, ruling in his place until he came of age. But deep in my heart, I knew my destiny would not be temporary. Egypt needed a steady hand, and I was ready to give it. At first, I ruled officially only as regent of young Thutmose III. At least that was what the inscriptions claimed. In truth, it was my hand that signed decrees, my ear that heard petitions, and my mind that steered the kingdom. It was not easy. Egyptians were used to pharaohs being men. Now, before them stood a woman, bold enough to lead. Many whispered it was against the divine order, but I knew the gods would not object if their land prospered. So I did what any wise ruler would do. I reshaped tradition. I had myself crowned pharaoh. Yes, pharaoh, not merely queen. I wore the royal regalia, including the false beard, symbol of power. And believe me, wearing a beard that isn't yours is not the most comfortable. But the authority was worth it. Statues and carvings began to show me in male form, broad-shouldered, crowned as pharaoh. It was a play of symbols. People might have known I was a woman, but in stone they saw a ruler. And I ruled them. It was no coup, no theft of the throne. It was a quiet transformation of reality. I declared, I am the daughter of Amun, chosen by the gods. And really, who would dare argue with the gods? Thus I became one of Egypt's most powerful pharaohs, and I must say the role suited me perfectly. As pharaoh, I wanted to prove that the reign of a woman could be a blessing, not a weakness. I turned my energy to trade, building, and prosperity rather than endless war. Egypt grew rich and strong. I reopened trade routes that brought gold, ebony, incense, and exotic animals. The greatest expeditions sailed to the land of Punt, a distant and mysterious place. Our ships returned loaded with treasures, fragrant trees, and wonders that amazed the people of Egypt. And what is a pharaoh without monuments? My greatest legacy was the temple of Deir el-Bahari, rising against the cliffs in perfect harmony with the land. Terraces, columns, stairways, a vision of order and beauty. Even today, people say it looks modern after 3,000 years. Well, I always did have good taste. I raised obelisks in Karnak that pierced the sky, restored temples, and built shrines to Amun, my divine protector. To me, these were not mere stones, but messages to the gods and to the future. During my reign, peace ruled the land, the fields bore grain, and trade flourished. Egypt lived through prosperity that many male pharaohs could only envy. Yes, I was a woman, but I was also pharaoh, and no obelisk, no temple, let the people forget it. I reigned for many years and Egypt thrived, but every story casts a shadow. Mine was Thutmose III, the boy who grew into a man, the rightful heir to the throne. At first I ruled in his name, but all knew the true power was mine. When he came of age, he had to accept that the throne was occupied by a woman, and not just any woman, but his stepmother. To be fair, I can imagine it wasn't easy for him. Thutmose III was a strong ruler and later a brilliant general, extending Egypt's power across lands. But perhaps in his heart there remained bitterness, knowing those early years of rule were mine. After my death, he began to erase me from history. My statues were broken, my reliefs chiseled away, my name struck from the king lists, as if to declare Hatshepsut never existed. But erasing memory is never so simple. My temples at Deir el-Bahri still stood, my obelisks still rose toward the sky, and stories of my reign endured among the people. Perhaps Thutmose wanted to bury me in silence, but in truth, his efforts only made my story more enduring. Had he left me be, I might have been just another pharaoh among many. By trying to erase me, he ensured that I would never be forgotten. My body was laid to rest in the Valley of the Kings among the great rulers of Egypt. Perhaps some tried to erase me, perhaps they wished that history would forget me. Yet today, after thousands of years, my name is spoken once more. Hatshepsut, the woman who became Pharaoh. My story is proof that power and wisdom have no gender, that even in times when men ruled, a woman could guide an empire to peace and prosperity. Not all of my deeds were perfect, but I left a mark that even the sands of time could not erase. And so I say this, if anyone ever tells you that you are too different, too weak, or too unfit to achieve something, remember me. I was a woman, and yet I ruled as Pharaoh. If my story has touched you, I ask you to support this channel. An echo of the past, leave a like, subscribe, and share these words so that the voices of history will never fade. For the past still whispers, and the future listens.